Princess Leonor's historic Denmark wedding changes royal history forever. A Spanish princess, a future Danish king, two royal destinies, carefully crafted. Then, a wedding no one predicted. Not in Madrid, in Copenhagen, not arranged, chosen. And now, everything has changed. The sky over Copenhagen was quiet. But inside the walls of Amalienborg Palace, history was shifting. Not with war, not with revolution, but with a royal wedding that redefined what power, love, and legacy truly mean. Princess Leonor of Spain, the firstborn daughter of King Felipe VI and Queen Letizia, stood at the center of the world's attention. Not as a royal ornament, but as a sovereign woman, an heir, and now, a bride. Not to a Spanish noble, but to Prince Christian of Denmark, Denmark's future king. This was no ordinary union. It was a collision of monarchies. Two lines of power intertwining not by treaty, but by choice. And what made it so extraordinary? It wasn't supposed to happen. Royal weddings follow protocol. They are announced years in advance. They are managed, choreographed, negotiated. But this one didn't follow any script. It began quietly, behind the scenes. Whispers of a deepening bond between the Spanish heir and the Danish prince. Rumors of private visits, shared studies, encrypted calls. But no confirmations, no public courtship, no palace leaks. Then, without warning, invitations were issued. Quietly, selectively, the wedding would take place in Copenhagen. Not as a state occasion, but as a private ceremony between two future monarchs. And the world paused, because nothing about this was typical. Not the bride, not the groom, not the message it sent. For Princess Leonor, this wedding was more than a romantic declaration. It was a political act. A personal decision that would echo across Europe's royal institutions. She had options, suitors, expectations. Spain had always anticipated a royal match from within its borders, or at least, one approved by its court. Leonor's decision was not expected. But it was deliberate. She had seen what it meant to marry without love. She had watched her grandparents' generation maintain appearances while losing themselves. She knew the power of image, yes, but she also knew its limits. So she chose differently. Prince Christian, meanwhile, had grown up under the quiet, steady gaze of Queen Margrethe II. His mother, Queen Mary, had once been a commoner. An Australian woman who entered the Danish monarchy with grace and modernity. From her, Christian inherited a sense of balance. Tradition, but not rigidity. Duty, but also depth. When Leonor and Christian began appearing together at rare international events, UN youth summits, military academy visits, no one thought much of it. Two royals, growing into their roles. Learning, observing. But behind those moments were conversations. Long ones, honest ones. Two people, both trained for crowns, trying to imagine a life where those crowns didn't cost them their humanity. The wedding itself was unlike any Europe had seen in decades. No golden thrones, no grand processions, no state motorcades. Instead, a modest cathedral in the heart of Copenhagen. Lit by candlelight, filled with only 150 guests, family, lifelong friends, a few select diplomats. Queen Letizia was there, holding back tears. King Felipe sat beside her, solemn but proud. Across the aisle, Queen Mary and King Frederick of Denmark watched their son make history. The dress Leonor wore was symbolic, designed by Spanish and Danish artisans together. Traditional lacework from Seville, embroidery in the old Danish royal style. It wasn't flashy, it was powerful, a statement stitched in silence. When the ceremony began, there were no national anthems. No state rituals, just vows, spoken, first in Spanish, then Danish, then English. Leonor's voice trembled, but only for a second. "I do not take this crown lightly," she said. "And I do not take this love for granted. I choose you, not in spite of who we are, but because of it. Because we know what duty means. And because we know what it must never cost." Christian, in return, echoed her words. "We were born into legacy. But today, we begin ours." The kiss that followed wasn't staged. It wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't for the cameras. It was real. And in that moment, every guest in the room, even those who had arrived with skepticism, understood. This wasn't just a wedding. It was a new era. But what happens now? Spain's constitution does not prohibit the heir from marrying a foreign royal. But it also doesn't outline what happens when two future sovereigns marry each other. This union forces questions that haven't been asked in centuries. Where will they live? Who will rule? What happens when one throne must be prioritized over the other? Sources close to both royal families say Leonor and Christian will split their time between Spain and Denmark, at least until Leonor ascends the throne. She remains next in line. She remains crown princess. But Christian's future role in Denmark must be carefully navigated. There are legal teams already examining possibilities. Could Denmark and Spain form a joint royal alliance? Unlikely. But could there be a shared diplomatic mission? A coordinated reign? A new model of monarchy? What's certain is that nothing is certain anymore. This marriage rewrites the rulebook. Not by destroying tradition, but by evolving it. Already, commentators are comparing the moment to past royal upheavals, Queen Victoria's strategic marriages, the unification of Spain's kingdoms through marriage in the 15th century, even the cross-border unions that sparked World War I. But this feels different, because this time, it wasn't arranged. It wasn't about alliances. It was about love. Love chosen, freely, publicly, powerfully. Some critics have raised eyebrows. In Madrid, a few far-right commentators called it reckless. They claimed it signaled a weakening of Spanish sovereignty, that Leonor had abandoned her people. But the people disagreed. In cities across Spain, crowds celebrated. Young women held signs that read, "She leads for us." In Denmark, the reception was equally emotional. Citizens praised Christian's quiet strength. His decision to stand beside Leonor without overshadowing her. The couple has already announced their intention to support shared causes, education access, climate response, youth mental health. Not as symbolic figureheads, but as active leaders. This wedding was the beginning of that. In the days that followed, Europe's other monarchs issued statements of congratulations. The British royal family, notably cautious, released a formal letter, but no official presence was sent to the ceremony. Some took this as a snub. Others, a calculated neutrality. Queen Margrethe, however, made her view clear in her toast at the wedding dinner. "You were both born into legacy. But today, you showed us how legacy can live." Princess Leonor's wedding did more than change her name or title. It changed the tone. She is no longer simply the heir. She is the future. A queen in training no longer. A queen becoming. And Christian, he is not just a consort. Not a royal accessory. But a partner, an equal, a king who may someday take his own throne, but who for now walks beside a woman reshaping royalty with every step. This wedding wasn't about escaping tradition. It was about transforming it. Quietly, deliberately, forever. The world watched. And now, it waits. Because whatever comes next, it began here, in Denmark, with two young royals, and a choice, to love, to lead, to change history, forever.